Seikane Girls Academy is an elite all-girls school for noble families. In a surprising move, the school decided to bring in a commoner as a reference sample of ordinary life, and that person was Kaburazaka Kimido, who came from a regular high school. The students at Seikane were extremely curious and excited to ask Kimido all kinds of questions. Before all of this, Kimido had been living a normal high school life. That day, Eri asked him, like usual, to grab some tea from the cafeteria. But as soon as Kimido stepped out of his classroom, a group of muscular men suddenly rushed toward him. They grabbed him, tied him up, and tossed him into a car. While inside, the men flexed their muscles in front of him, clearly showing off for some reason. Kimido had no idea what was going on. Eventually, they threw him out of the car in front of the gates of Seikane Girls Academy. A maid named Miyuki greeted him politely and thanked him for cooperating. She explained that they did not want to cause a scene, which was why they used that unusual method to bring him there. Miyuki quickly untied him. Kimido was understandably upset and said they had gone way too far. He asked where he was and who all these people were. Miyuki brushed off his reaction, saying that the way he greeted people really did make him sound like a commoner, and to her, that kind of attitude was rude. She told him she would explain everything and asked him to follow her. As they walked, Miyuki introduced herself and explained that this was a school exclusively for daughters of noble families. It focused on teaching them the traditional manners and customs of classic Japanese women. The existence of the school was a well-guarded secret from the general public. She also told Kimido that the school was called Seikane Girls Academy, and starting that day, he would be attending it. Miyuki said that all the arrangements had already been made and even Kimido's parents had given their approval. Kimido was confused and asked why he had been chosen, but Miyuki ignored the question and simply told him to keep following her. She went on to say that Seikane was a school strictly for noble women, so men were never allowed. Every single student and staff member there was female, and no exceptions had ever been made. However, recently, the school had been facing a few issues. Miyuki brought Kimido to meet the principal, Sayuri. Sayuri introduced herself and apologized if Miyuki had treated him roughly. She then asked Miyuki to apologize directly to Kimido. Miyuki did apologize, although it was pretty clear she did not mean it sincerely. Kimido then asked what the actual problem at the school was. Miyuki explained that a lot of students who graduated from Seikane ended up struggling after entering the real world. Even though they came from privileged backgrounds, they were not used to interacting with people outside of their bubble. The shock of dealing with such different lifestyles sometimes led them to odd behavior, like becoming obsessed with online games. Kimido was confused about why something like that would even be considered a serious issue. Sayuri said that some people had recently suggested the school should take action to prevent the same thing from happening to future graduates. Miyuki added that after discussing the best way to keep the school's traditions intact while still preparing students for the outside world, they decided to bring in a commoner. By inviting someone like Kimido to live among them at school, the hope was that the students would slowly get used to interacting with people from different backgrounds. On top of that, the students had never really been around the opposite sex, which had turned into a big problem on its own. Sayuri believed that this would solve everything. Kimido said he understood the situation, but he was confused about why he had been chosen to be the commoner sample. Miyuki explained that Kimido was just an ordinary high school student from the top public school in the prefecture. His height, weight, and looks were all average, and he was known as a kind person. Back in middle school, he had even been nicknamed Sebastian. Because of that, Miyuki said he was basically the perfect example of a commoner. However, according to Miyuki, there was one exceptional quality that made Kimido stand out from everyone else. He was supposedly gay, had a muscle fetish, and was attracted to handsome, muscular men. Kimido was shocked to hear that and insisted that he did not have a muscle fetish at all. Miyuki asked if she was wrong because as far as she knew, Kimido never interacted with any girls and always spent time around other boys. That information had come from Kimido's childhood friend, Eri. Kimido explained that Miyuki had misunderstood him and that he was still straight. Sayuri commented that this could be a problem, and Miyuki even warned that it might turn into a serious issue. Kimido asked why that would be. Miyuki explained that if he really was not into muscles, and for the sake of protecting the school's secret, he would have to spend the rest of his life in a place that did not exist on any map. And if he insisted on staying at that school, he would need to be medically neutered in order to protect the purity of the female students. Hearing that, Kimido had no choice but to declare that he loved well-built muscles. Miyuki was surprised to discover that side of him, but she seemed relieved. She informed him that his class would be Class 1. Sayuri reminded him that none of the students at the school had ever interacted with any boys before, so she asked him to be careful and not do anything too extreme. Kimido then walked into his class and he was stunned to see all the students standing in formation, waiting for him. One of the girls introduced herself as the class president of Class 1. Her name was Reiko. She said that she and her classmates had been waiting for Kimido's arrival. The girls greeted him politely, and Kimido introduced himself in return. When they heard Kimido refer to himself using the word "or," they were surprised to learn that commoners talk like that. Suddenly, Kimido's phone rang. The students were confused and asked what the sound was. Miyuki stepped in to calm them down and explained that the object making that noise was called a cell phone, also known as a smartphone. None of the girls had ever seen one before. Miyuki explained that a cell phone was a small, portable telephone commonly used by commoners. The students immediately crowded around to take a closer look at Kimido's phone. They had no idea that such a thin, compact device could be used to make phone calls. Some of them even asked to hold it themselves. They could not believe that Kimido was so used to using something so amazing, and they said commoners were truly incredible. Reiko stepped in and told everyone to give the phone back to Kimido. But they were so flustered they had no idea what to do. Just imagining holding it made their hearts feel like they were going to stop. They felt that way because none of them had ever interacted with a boy before. Reiko finally gathered her courage and returned the phone to Kimido herself. She thanked him for letting them see it. Then all of a sudden, Reiko remembered something she had forgotten. She needed to make him a thank you card right away. Sumire had already prepared some paper and a pen for Reiko to use. Reiko quickly wrote down a thank you card, then tied it with a ribbon, placed it inside the gift box, decorated it with flowers and another ribbon, and finally put the box in a bag before handing it to Kimido. Seeing all of that, Reiko's friends praised her for being thoughtful and always caring. Kimido thanked her and accepted the gift, but since Reiko was a little nervous, she accidentally lost her balance and fell forward. Luckily, Kimido managed to catch her in time. Reiko was so overwhelmed that she ended up fainting, which made all her friends panic. Suddenly, a girl named Aika came into the classroom and immediately pulled Kimido outside. Kimido asked her why she dragged him out. Without wasting time, Aika pushed him and tried to kiss him. She called Kimido a commoner and asked him to let her kiss him. As Aika moved her face closer to his, Kimido pushed her away and asked what she was doing. Aika explained that if she kissed a commoner, her wish would come true, so she believed she needed to kiss Kimido to make her dream a reality. Kimido told her that her wish would not come true just by doing that. Aika insisted she had heard about it from one of her upperclassmen. Kimido asked her whom she trusted more, an upperclassman who never left her room or a commoner like him. Aika let go of him and admitted that she did not really believe it either. She called Kimido a dumb commoner, but Kimido shot back that she was the one being dumb for thinking a kiss could make dreams come true. Aika responded by saying she did not actually believe it. Just messing around, Kimido joked that if she spun in a circle and barked, then her dream would come true. To his surprise, Aika actually believed him and did it right away. Kimido could barely believe what he had just witnessed. Right then, Reiko and her friends showed up to apologize to Kimido. Reiko explained that she and the others were truly worried about him, so they came looking. They were shocked to see Kimido being pulled away like that by Aika. Reiko asked what he and Aika were doing. When she called out to Aika suddenly ran away. Reiko mentioned that Aika never really talked to them, so maybe there was something they did not know about her. Later, Miyuki escorted Kimido to a dorm that would be his new place to live. She even told him there was a private room made just for him. The room had been renovated and Miyuki was confident that Kimido would be satisfied. To his surprise, the room was made to look exactly like his bedroom back home. Miyuki explained that the total costs, including special shipping, renovation, and other expenses to keep everything confidential, was around 100 million yen. Kimido was shocked when he heard that. Miyuki reassured him that she believed he would feel comfortable there. Suddenly reminded of Miyuki's earlier threat about his supposed muscle fetish, Kimido tore up his collection of 5 pictures. That made Miyuki suspicious and wonder if Kimido had been lying about his muscle fetish. To keep up the act, Kimido quickly pretended to be into muscular male figures. Miyuki then told him that from now on, she would be his personal maid. At this school, every student had their own maid to take care of them, so Miyuki would be looking after him from now on. She also informed Kimido that the introduction ceremony would begin at 3 p.m. and asked him to stay in his room and rest until then. All of a sudden, Aika barged into Kimido's room and accused him of lying. She said she had done it 58 times, but her wish still had not come true. Kimido replied by reminding her that he only said to do it 3 times. Aika said that Kimido had tricked her, but Kimido told her that she was the one who did that in the first place. Besides, he did not expect her to do something so ridiculous. Aika was shocked when she saw everything inside Kimito's room since she had never seen any of it before. Kimito explained that all of those things belonged to commoners. That got Aika thinking that maybe this was the key to getting her wish granted. She asked Kimito if learning about commoners would help make her wish come true. What she really wanted was to be popular in class. She asked if there was something wrong with that wish. According to Kimito, she did not need to go through all this just to make friends. If she could act like her normal self, her wish would come true naturally. Aika said that just being normal would not help her get what she wanted. But Kimito pointed out that if she could talk to him like this, then there was nothing wrong with her. Aika admitted that she was not good at lying, so she always said whatever was on her mind. She was convinced that people would not like her for that, and she was scared of being disliked. That was why she kept her distance from her classmates. She confessed that she really wanted to be friends with them. She hated being alone. She wanted to talk to her classmates and enjoy high school life with them. Until now, she had been spending her breaks pretending to sleep and rushing home just to avoid everyone. But she admitted that she did not want to keep living like that anymore. Aika was surprised at herself for suddenly saying all of that to a commoner like Kimito. Kimito let her borrow his game console. Aika was stunned the moment she turned it on. She could not even deny it. Commoner games were amazing. She asked Kimito to teach her how to become a commoner. She wanted to learn all about commoner culture. Aika said that commoners were starting to become popular at school. At the very least, if she knew a little about commoner culture, she was sure her wish would come true. She would become popular at school. That was why she asked Kimito to teach her everything there was to know about being a commoner. That way, she could become a commoner master and everyone in class would want to hang out with her. Aika even made up her mind to start a commoner club with her and Kimito as the only members for now. She was so fired up and said that she and Kimito would do all kinds of awesome club activities together. Kimito agreed and Aika was thrilled. She kicked off her club activities with her first mission, beating the game on Kimito's console. Miyuki woke Kimito up in the morning. As soon as he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see her and asked why she had come into his room. Miyuki reminded him that she was the maid assigned to take care of him, so waking him up was part of her job. Without hesitation, she began to take off his t-shirt, which immediately startled him. Not long after, she also pulled down his pants. Kimito quickly protested, saying that was going way too far, and he could take care of it himself. Miyuki, however, insisted that it was her duty as a maid of Seiken. To her, Kimito was just a commoner, boring with a muscle fish and perverted. That moment made Kimito realize that if he did not keep acting like he was into guys, there was no way he could survive in that place. Meanwhile, Reiko had already arrived at her classroom and was greeted by her friends. Back with Kimito, Miyuki asked him to enter through the back door instead of the front, since going in through the front would definitely cause a scene among the students. As he opened the door, he accidentally bumped into Aika. She asked what he was doing there. Unexpectedly, a crowd of students had gathered in the hallway, all talking about Kimito. Miyuki pointed out a better route for him to take, and Aika decided to follow. While walking together, Kimito mentioned that he finally understood why Aika often used that entrance. Aika asked why someone as popular as Kimito would even consider using it, then started wondering whether using that door might make her popular too. Aika reminded him that the Commoner Club activities would start that day. All that time, Kimito had been feeling uncomfortable because the maids kept following him around. He said that as a commoner, he was not used to having maids. Aika was surprised and immediately jotted it down in her notebook. Kimito offered to tell her everything about how commoners live as long as she would tell him what life was like at Seiken Academy. Aika said that all the complicated stuff would be explained by Reiko, since she was the student council president. Kimito asked why Aika could not just do it instead. Aika was surprised and asked why he would choose her over Reiko. Kimito said it was because Aika did not look like a noble at all, while Reiko was so beautiful that she seemed to have a whole aura of her own. To him, Reiko felt like she was from another world, and that made him nervous, unlike how he felt around Aika. Aika immediately smacked him, called him an idiot, and told him to stay away from her. As they kept walking, Reiko suddenly showed up and said she had been looking all over for Kimito. She was really happy to see him. She also greeted Aika, but as usual, Aika stayed silent. Reiko then asked Kimito if she could have a moment of his time after school. Kimito agreed, which made Reiko even more excited. She explained that she and her friends were planning a welcome party for him. They would all be waiting for him in the auditorium, and she even invited Aika before quickly walking away. Reiko then wondered if she had done something wrong to make Aika so upset. Kimito realized that Aika tended to get shy in situations like that. Reiko was definitely an outstanding student. She was great at English, skilled at flower arranging, and even her friends admired her for how beautiful her arrangements looked. On top of that, she was also amazing at the long jump. Her friends described her movements as graceful. When it was Aika's turn, she ended up falling during her jump, and Reiko showed genuine concern for her. Then came Kimito's turn. He performed exceptionally well, surprising everyone. No one expected him to jump that far, and the students started praising him for how impressive he was. After gym class, Kimito walked through the halls surrounded by Reiko and her friends. Reiko complimented him, saying she could not even imagine jumping like that. Kaa commented that guys really were built differently, and Mizuho said she could not even land as smoothly as he had. Kimito then asked where she had gone. The others assumed he was referring to Aika. Kimito explained that commoners usually use pronouns when referring to people, unlike nobles who tend to address others directly by name. Reiko asked if Kimito and Aika had talked that morning and mentioned that it seemed like the two of them were pretty close. Reiko guessed that maybe something was wrong with her and the others, since Aika had not wanted to talk to them at all. Kimito wondered if it would be okay to tell them that Aika just did not want to be disliked by Reiko and the rest. He eventually said that Aika might have her own reasons, and he asked them not to hate her for it. Reiko replied by asking why they would hate Aika in the first place. They had not done anything to upset her, but they were really glad Kimito told them that. That way they could try to become good friends with her. The other girls agreed and said they were sure it would work out, and they were willing to try. Later, Reiko and the others took Kimito to the school restaurant. Kimito was stunned by how fancy the place was. Every student there stared at him, watching his every move. At that moment, Kimito had become the center of everyone's attention. He was so nervous that he tripped. When he looked at the menu, he could not understand anything written on it. Reiko asked what he wanted to order. Kimito said he wanted Japanese food, so Reiko and the others decided to order the same thing. To everyone's surprise, what got served was instant cup noodles. Miyuki was the one who brought them out, thinking instant noodles were a staple food for commoners. Kimito told her that commoners did not eat that every day. When Miyuki asked if Kimito was refusing the food, Reiko suddenly jumped in and asked if instant cup noodles were actually food, since they smelled so different. Kimito was surprised that Reiko had no idea what they were. He asked if she at least knew what ramen was, but she just said she thought she had heard of it before. Kimito explained that instant cup noodles were a simple version of ramen. You just add hot water, and they are ready to eat. Reiko and the others were shocked to learn that all it took was hot water to make it. They had never thought of that before, and they were confused about why the container had so much writing on it. Some of them even compared it to old Imari porcelain that also had decorative writing. Kimito told them that sometimes commoners ate that kind of food. When Reiko opened hers, she was amazed that it was actual food and even came with seasoning packets. Mizuho was curious about how it worked and how just adding hot water could change its form. Kimito offered to let them try it. Reiko encouraged everyone to eat the cup noodles. Reiko asked Miyuki to hand out the noodles to the rest of the class. She said porcelain bowls were not worthy of holding the cup noodle treasure Kimito had shared with them, and told her to serve it on their best plates instead. Once the noodles had been passed around, the students grew curious about how it would taste, since the smell was so pleasant. Kimito was confused because he did not think the flavor was anything special. Reiko thanked Kimito and invited everyone to start eating. To Kimito's surprise, they all said it was absolutely delicious. He hardly believed what he was hearing. Kai said it was her first time ever trying something like that. Mizuho thought the broth was so savory and the texture of the noodles was truly unique. Maya even got hooked on the taste. For Reiko, it was an experience like nothing she had ever had before. She said she never knew a food like that even existed, and she would remember it for the rest of her life. Kimito could not believe how a simple meal could cause such a fuss. Meanwhile, Aika was eating lunch alone. To her, being away from everyone else actually felt kind of nice. Reiko brought Kimito to his welcome party. Kimito felt happy and thanked Reiko for it. Reiko said she was just glad she got to organize something like that. Then she invited her friends to raise their glasses for Kimito as the new transfer student. The welcome party was incredibly fancy, complete with a violin performance and dancing. Reiko asked if something was wrong with the party, but Kimito said he was just impressed that she could pull off something like that. Reiko told him that he was the impressive one, surrounded by a world they had never known before. She felt that Kimito had opened her eyes to a completely different perspective, and she was genuinely happy to be praised by someone like him. Reiko then invited Kimito to dance. However, he turned her down, explaining that he could not dance and had never danced before. Reiko apologized for not realizing that. Kimito then agreed to give it a try and asked her to show him how. Reiko happily accepted. She was clearly nervous as they got started. At first, Kimito felt like he might be able to pull it off, but as they continued, their movements got faster and they began spinning around wildly. Reiko assumed it was some kind of innovative dance style and figured it must be how commoners danced. Eventually, she started to feel dizzy and lost her grip. Kimito caught her just as the music ended. The other students burst into applause at their performance. Later that evening, Aika came to Kimito's room, clearly annoyed because she had been waiting for a long time. Kimito explained that Reiko and the others had taken him to the welcome party and then asked if Aika was supposed to attend as well. Aika insisted that Kimito tell her everything he knew about commoners for their club activities. Kimito asked for a moment to think about what kind of things commoners usually did. While he was thinking, Aika browsed through his bookshelf and asked what kind of books those were. Kimito told her they were comic books. She picked up one titled Avatar Tonfa, and Kimito was surprised that she had never heard of it. When she opened the book, she asked how to read it. Kimito was even more surprised that she did not know how to follow the panels. He explained that it was read from right to left, top to bottom. Arika started reading it and seemed to get into it quickly. She ended up reading more than just one volume. After a while, Kimito asked what she thought of the comic. Arika admitted that she was shocked and asked why Kimito had never told her about it before, about how all high schoolers among commoners were apparently paranormal, like in the comic. Kimito started to realize how naive Arika really was. He figured she probably believed everything she had read in the comic. Arika declared that she was going to become a paranormal too. If commoners could do it, then there was no way a noblewoman like her could not. Kimito could not believe she actually took the story seriously. Aika went on to say she would show her avatar to the other students, and then everyone would admire her, and she would become popular. She even added that even if she became the most popular girl in class, she would still talk to Kimito. Kimito figured she might need to start practicing, though not anything straight out of a comic. He taught her a simple move for stopping time, and told her to give it a shot. Once Aika performed the move, Kimito pretended to freeze so she would think it had worked. Arika was thrilled, thinking she had actually done it. She even showed her underwear in front of Kimito, completely convinced he could not see anything. Then she decided she wanted to write Ichijinsha on his forehead, but instead she suddenly leaned in as if she was about to kiss him. Just as her face got close, Kimito spat out water and Aika immediately smacked him. Kimito played dumb and pretended not to understand why his cheek was hurting. Aika concluded that maybe there was a time limit on how long she could stop time and she needed to experiment a bit more. Out of the blue, Kimito asked what Ichijinsha even meant. Aika was shocked and asked how he knew what she was planning to write. Kimito admitted that it had all been an act and apologized. That night, Reiko was soaking in the hot spring when she unexpectedly ran into Kimito. Kimito was stunned by the sight of Reiko's figure. He immediately closed the door, apologized, and left. Reiko then said that she had to become Kimito's wife since he had seen her body. The next day in class, Reiko could not stop thinking about what happened the night before. Meanwhile, Kimito assumed that Reiko had already moved on and was acting like nothing ever happened. During the lesson, the teacher asked everyone to pair up and start a conversation. Kimito ended up with Reiko and invited her to begin. When Kimito started with the words, "you know," Reiko misheard it as "you now," which means engagement. She responded by saying it was a little too soon for them, but getting engaged and leaving school was totally normal back in her grandmother's time. Kimito had no idea what she was talking about. Reiko asked him to continue what he was trying to say. When Kimito said waiting for, she misheard it again, this time as wedding. Reiko then said she was ready to get married right away. She added that she could throw together an amazing ceremony that would make everyone happy, even if everything happened super fast. Without realizing it, Reiko started tearing a piece of paper out of her notebook and folded it into an origami tower. When she saw the word travel written on it, she asked Kimito where they should go for their trip, somewhere local or maybe abroad. The teacher looked completely confused, wondering what on earth was going on with Reiko.